How is it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we'll be taking a quick look at Space Marine 2 main story. I hope this video serves as an introduction and explanation of the story to those not too familiar with the setting. I'll not be getting much into detail with the first game, and I'll be only mentioning certain elements when I deem it necessary. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The story starts in the planet of Kadaku. It was being invaded by Tyranids. Looks like a splinter of a hive fleet found this world. An Imperial Guard is preparing for the incoming nightmare. The Imperium sends in the Death Watch, a Space Marine chapter made up of veteran super soldiers specialized on dealing with aliens, or Xenos as are generally referred here. Tyranids are a special breed of alien, one of the biggest threats humanity faces on the 40th millennia, an ever-consuming horde of bug-like creatures, invading planets using biological shapes and bioforms and leaving nothing behind. The squad inside the ship is then attacked by a swarm of these things before landing, and the commander falls to the surface. He then tries to regroup with his team. They were planning on detonating a virus bomb in the stratosphere. They knew it wouldn't get rid of the Tyranids, but it would slow their advance while they adapt to the pathogen. Sadly, the rest of the commander's team fell prey of the creatures, but manages to launch the bomb anyways, before being overrun by a giant swarm and pierced by a carnifex. Luckily, reinforcements arrived just in time to save him. We now know that this is Dimitri Titus, the main character of the previous Space Marine game. At the end of that game's story, he was promoted to commander of the Death Watch squad, as penance for being wrongly accused of heresy. That carnifex should have killed him, but the chaplain here informs him he was saved by the Rubicon surgery. In other words, he's now a Primaris Space Marine, by order of the chapter master. Besides, he's being reassigned to the Ultramarines again. For those not too familiar, there used to be 20 Space Marine legions. 2 of those were erased from history, leaving only 18 with their Primarchs. 10,000 years ago, a lot of stuff happened, and half of the legions betrayed the Imperium. That's an event known as the Horus Heresy. Half of the legions betrayed the Imperium. The traitor Primarchs either became Demon Princes or died, and the other 9 loyalists are either missing or assumed dead. Also, the Emperor was severely wounded by one of the traitor Primarchs, so physically he's dead. Recently, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, the largest legion of Startus, Robuta Gilliman, came back to the server after being AFK for 10,000 years and approved the creation of Primaris Space Marine, which, in essence, are Space Marines 2.0 with better genes and stats. That's what they did to Titus here to save his life, the Rubicon surgery, to make him a Primaris. And now he's being reassigned to his older chapter, as lieutenant, to fend off the Tyranid invasion on the system. They return to the planet to help the Cadian Imperial Guard to fight the insects. The Cadians are human soldiers from the most fortified planet on the Imperium. Recently, in the setting, their homeworld was destroyed on a battle of absurd proportions that ended with a chaos rift dividing the galaxy and their world reduced to rocks. But the Imperial Guard stood until the end, even while and after the planet was collapsing for the impact of an ancient warship. Now, these guards are seen as the most well-trained human forces in the Imperium, and here they were helping fend off the Tyranid invasion. Their objective now was to recapture a orbital missile base sieged by the Tyranids. Titus and his squad pushed forward into the jungle, and after holding wave after wave of monsters, they shot the hive fleet successfully, with only 1 casualty on their side. But something was weird. The fallen Marine was found dead with a clean hole in his helmet, and his battle brother was very sure he couldn't have been killed by a normal Nid. Also, I forgot to introduce the Marines with Titus. These are Gadriel and Carrion. Titus and his team are then deployed to collect some information from a laboratory belonging to the Adeptus Mechanicus. The captain wanted back before the Tyranids get it. In simple words, the Adeptus Mechanicus are in charge of all the technological part of the Imperium. They believe in a machine god called the Omnisaya that, to put it simple, it's the Emperor with a few more coats of painting. Out in the jungle, they deal with the thing that's been dispatching their men, a lictor. A Tyranid bioform is specialized in stealth that, despite its appearance and size, is completely silent when stalking its prey. After going through swarms and swarms of rat-sized Tyranids, they get the data and the Mechanicus is boarded on a ship. Unfortunately, the vessel is shot, and the team goes to the crash site to aid them, making their way through a whole colony of Tyranids. To their dismay, there were no survivors left, and found traces of chaos activity on what remained of the ship. At that moment, Titus was about to investigate something, but a pain stopped him. Let's just say that some stitches from the Rubicon surgery broke, and the Mechanicum who came to pick them up were very eager to recover something. When they come back to report to the captain, he is very surprised at hearing of chaos activity. Either way, Titus and his team are deployed on a neighboring planet, to a hive city to be specific, to rescue the deceased Mechanicus apprentice. He was the only person capable of retrieving the data his mentor left, a man by the name of Luz. They infiltrate into the facility. Titus and his men wonder why there was chaos in the remains of the ship. In simple words, chaos are the demons of this setting. They come from the warp, also known as space hell. Like it or not, if you have magical abilities in this setting, you're dealing with the warp and chaos, and this place is inhabited by 4 gods of chaos. Korn, who represents blood and violence, Zinj, whose trickery, change and bullshittery, Nurgle, whose disease and rot, and Slanesh, the god of excess and desire. Using the data of the Death Mechanicus, they found the location of the apprentice, but Titus is very suspicious of something. He wanted to know what they were doing here. He reads of something called Aurora, an artifact. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to get more information before a Tyranid swarm stormed the reactor and had to get rid of them. Back with Captain Acheron, Titus wanted to know why they were messing with the Chaos artifact. It would be very dangerous if the heretics put their trust on it, but the captain says these were orders from the Primarch, and dismisses the team. His companions also noticed this, but Titus wasn't so sure of trusting them. They go back to the Hive City and regroup with a veteran of the Legion. A psychic Tyranid bioform was holding their advance. When they finally arrive at the temple, they find a couple of Imperial guards guarding the place. They are ordered to leave immediately, to aid the Cadians, but one of them refused. Gadriel calls them deserters immediately, and the veteran orders him to call the commander immediately. If they were deserters, he will execute them here and now. But Carrion notices something strange. The veins under his arms were too dark. It was an ambush. The guard detonates some explosives that were enough to take down the veteran, and the rest of Titus' team takes care of the guards. And suddenly, a portal manifests in the temple's hall. These were Chaos Space Marines, the Thousand Sons. These are Magnus's Legion. They were claimed by Zinj, the Chaos god of change and deceit. They were very adept sorcerers and had a special affinity for the warp. They suffered from a genetic defect called the Flesh Change that turned them spontaneously in a flesh blob due to their inner magic. So after a lot of stuff going on in the timeline, most of Magnus's men were turned into warp essence, inhabiting their armors. That's the reason why they turned into dust when they are killed here. Carrion loses control for a moment after seeing the heretics, and Titus scolds him for that. They found where Luz is hiding, and the Thousand Sons are after his knowledge. According to the lieutenant, the artifact they were after is of chaotic origin, and the Mechanicus believed that they could hold their power. He didn't know what Acheron was thinking, but his companions, especially Gadriel, didn't trust him that much. They get rid of the Chaos Marines assaulting the entrance and take Luz to a safe place. The Mechanicum was quite shocked at finding out of Nozick's death, and that he was his replacement. Returning to the base, the apprentice recognizes Titus. He heard of a Stardust that was blown up by the power source during a battle on Greya. He was assured that not even a Space Marine could survive that much power. Something must have happened to him, but they weren't going to get more information out of him. They report back to Acheron. They were expecting heretics in this system at the same time as the Tyranids. They had to get the message out to Lord Kalgar, but the Tyranid had their allies around it. Titus had a hunch of where the Hive Tyrant might be. If they get rid of it, the swarm connection to the Hive Mind is severed. This was a long shot, but Acheron accepts. Before being deployed, Gadriel asks what he was up to before coming back to the chapter, and simply says that he was part of the Death Watch, serving penance for his crimes of corruption by the Inquisition. This is a little messy for some chapters because serving on the Death Watch means rejecting their brothers and Primarch. They make their way with the help of the Cadians through the sieged Hive City. The plan works. The other squad rains bombs on the building that was suspecting to be the Tyrant's lair. Almost immediately, all the Tyranids scatter, giving them an entrance to the relay. For those unfamiliar with the ritual going on here, the Imperium doesn't use space communications as we understand them with radio signals. They use mages to send telepathic messages across star systems. The guys wielded to the pillars are batteries, and the lady in the middle of the ritual is who sends the message. She asks Titus to take a step forward, but something very odd happens. While reading his mind to find the message, she accuses him of heresy. He wanted to call Lord Kalgar here to kill him. This makes Gadriel spring to action, but before anything tragic happens, Carrion shoots the astropath, revealing herself to be a Chaos Marine of Zinj, some guy called Imura. After defeating him, he escapes, and Carrion says something very interesting. He knew the astropath was possessed, because he knew very well the mark of chaos. He mentions that he was a little boy in cults when the World Bearers attacked, the traitor legion of Primarch Lorcar. This means that he was a kid when the Horus Heresy began, and that makes sense because the Primaris Space Marines were created around the same time the Horus Heresy began. That until Guilliman awakened and approved of their deployment. That was a really nice detail. Titus also assures Gabriel that he understood his decisions, but hopes that this now puts his defiance and doubts to rest. Back with Captain Acheron, he was very shocked at hearing of the presence of the Thousand Sons. They were only using the Tyranids as an excuse to make their moves. Luz was taken to a facility that was outrun by the Chaos Marines. He was working with the Aurora there. They had to take him back. They couldn't get near their base due to some sort of sorcery that was calling reinforcements and giving them energy. Gabriel suggests using an ancient ultramarine ship that crashed near this planet with enough fuel inside to blow up this spire. The plan worked and goes down into the facility to take Luz back. There they learn that they were in a tomb world. To put it simple, these are the remainings of a civilization millions of years older than humanity. It is the most technological advanced race in the galaxy. These are the Necrons, and this place is called the Tomb World for they are the resting place of their dynasties. They could wake up at any moment, and that's been shown on other Tomb Worlds across the galaxy. The Mechanicum were using the Necrons technology, play with the powers of chaos. This could work in theory, but Titus knew very well what chaos was capable of. Making their way through the facility, Imura also mentions something called the Council of Nicaea, and how the Emperor gave them his back for trying to wield the same power as he. This is referring to a few events of the Horus Heresy. Magnus the Red, the Thousand Sons Primarch, was a powerful psyker such as his legion, and when his brothers noticed the flesh change in action, they called the Emperor and during a trial called the Council of Nicaea. His whole legion was forbade to use magic, while the God Emperor, and let's be honest, some of his brothers too, wielded some degree of magic too. That's just one of the two main reasons that led Magnus to betray the Imperium. When Titus and company find Luz, he was still insistent that Aurora was safe. Right there, Imura appears and tries to stop him to recover the artifact, and throws a Thousand Sons Hellbrood at the Ultramarines. To no one's surprise, this whole Aurora thing was a trick. Aurora could suppress the chaotic forces, yeah, or also amplify them, and that's exactly what Luz ended up doing here. Now the influence of the Changer of Ways was even greater. They regrouped with Acheron. A small chaos rift was opened in the sky, and again there was a pillar creating a force field around it. And the only way they saw of making an assault was to charge and make it through enemy lines, and they were putting a good fight, but the enemy ends up overwhelming them. But just when they were being surrounded, reinforcements finally arrived. It was Lord Marnius Calgar, the chapter master of the Ultramarines. They were almost considering the option of Exterminatus the planet, but Titus and Gabriel saw what happened with Luz. This whole thing was caused when he flipped up some kind of artifact that seemed like a replica of those obelisks. If they were to get near enough the pillars, find the altars and flip the devices, that will shoot them down and make the Thousand Sons flee. They deactivate the devices and make a final charge to a giant demon spawn in front of the gate. But there, Imura orders the creature to cast something that paralyzes the battlefield, except for Lord Calgar, who goes directly into the portal. He's then followed by Titus and company trying to save him, facing the sorcerer one more time. He sends one of the demon birds before finding the chapter master, a few steps of facing the heretic, and once again we are shown why Zinj is the weakest god of chaos. Titus shuts down the power and Imura gets vaporized, and with that the Thousand Sons invasion is stopped. Gains the respect of Lord Calgar and is assigned to another mission by the chaplain, who turned out to be his first companion from the first game. But anyways, that's all there is for Space Marine 2. I hope you liked the video, and if that's the case, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, tell me what do you guys think. That really helps me and the channel. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time, bye bye.